everyone to the New Year, New podcast, exploring Latinx podcast and podcasters. And we are so excited to have everybody here. Thank you all so much for joining. We will be kind of having this conversation. We have a little bit of tea right here, some teasme. We're going to be kind of discussing everything relating to podcasting in the Latinx community. So we're super, super excited. Thank you so much for joining. Our IG handles are going to be kind of displayed. So please, if you like what we're saying, please follow us. We'll talk about this again at the end. But thank you again for joining. So we will start off with introductions for everybody. We're going to do like a little reel and trailer, if you will, for everybody. So we're going to go ahead and start with the one and only Miss Odalis Jasmine. Please tell us a little bit more about the Hella Latin podcast.
Yes, happy to. It's all about navigating identity as a Latino, Latina, Latinx, and navigating the first generation experience or navigating the immigrant experience, right? Whatever it is that you identify with. And it's all about just having vulnerable conversations about your story, the struggles, the cute parts, the beautiful parts, the culture parts, but also the tough, the unique, the empowering, sometimes emotional, and talking about all the in-betweens and all the intricacies and nuances of navigating your own identity, your own Latinidad in the United States.
One night I was out and I saw that they were doing this dance and listening to this music, and it's called Palo de Mayo. I'd never heard of this, but I was looking at the way that they were moving their hips, and I was like, that's what I do. I do that. That's the rhythm that I hear in my head all the time. And so, as we're discovering like what Latinidad means for us, or just discovering more about ourselves and our histories, it's not just about learning about the past. It's about learning about yourself in this present, so that we can inform, the ones to come, those of us who choose to have families and to have kids and stuff, that we can pass that knowledge on to them so that they know who they are. And then they can make choices based on that like historical knowledge about who they want to continue to be.
Now we're going to go to Rocio and Mercedes. Tell us about your podcast.
Hi, yeah, our podcast, Rocio and Mercedes. So Mercedes and I realized that we didn't really know the history of Dominican Republic, the Dominicans, and we lacked that strength of our Blackness, the connection to our Blackness as Dominicans. So we decided to start a journey of self-discovery through learning more about Dominican culture, Dominican lifestyle, and embracing our Blackness. And how we do that is inviting guests on different topics through an Afro-Latinx lens.
Love it.
Yes, it was very important for us to have community. We wanted to create a sacred space where we can have the dialogue that people are afraid to have in a safe space as well.
Hi, my name is Garcia, and I am first generation Dominican.
Hi, I'm Mercedes, and I was born in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic.
And we are Amplifying the Afro in Afro-Dominican. This podcast is about our journey of embracing our Blackness and being Dominican, growing up in New York City, and not really realizing how Black I really am.
How many times have you heard, oh my God, I didn't know you were Dominican?
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that?
I want to say almost every day.
Yeah. So what is that?
Yeah.
We're Dominican.
Yeah.
Okay. We got Black. Mm-hmm. There's no denying in that.
We both look like Black women, but we both have completely different complexions.
And we have different experiences based on first gen and, me being born in DR and living here in the States. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about mad stuff. We're going to be talking about hair.
Oh my God, we have to talk about hair. Hair journey is cray.
Yeah,
community.
Natural hair.
Yeah.
That's a whole journey in and of itself.
Yeah.
Especially being Dominican.
Oh my God, you don't even know.
And food, of course. We need to talk about food.
Dominican food is definitely a specialty.
But more importantly, we really want to talk about how we embraced our own journeys of embracing our Blackness.
Yeah, I like talking and touching about like our African heritage and our indigenous heritage, putting aside that whole Spaniard European narrative because I'm a little tired of it.
Okay. Yeah. Or, you know, if you have similar experiences or, you know, you want to learn more about being Dominican and, you know, yeah, we know we're Black. Yeah. And tune in and, you know, get some coffee or get some mimosas and join us on this journey. Okay?
Hashtag what? Amplifying the Afro and Afro-Dominican. Hashtag Garcia Mercedes. Hashtag Afro. Hashtag despair. Hashtag Dominican.
Pajon.
Hashtag Pajon. Hashtag Malo. Hashtag
coffee.
And
Bustelo? Just tune in, okay? It's going to be fun.
Let's continue with Señor Mozo, please.
I'm excited to be part of this, first and foremost. But watching for most is all about thinking before you speak. It's about holding yourself accountable for the things you say around other people, especially as a man. You know, that's why Watch Your Mouth and Mo came about. And also overall just to be a better person, you know, to be better people. You know, we focus so much on men, women, and all this other stuff, but it's all about being a better person, being better people, and just being able to make the world a better place. As corny as it sounds, that's how we make it happen.
Episode, I'm going to be talking about the mask of masculinity. The masks that I've worn and the masks that men wear. See, us men have many masks that we hide behind. And a lot of these masks are socially acceptable. And most men want to wear these masks. Not just men, women want us to wear these masks. And we allow these masks to govern our lives. And although it may not seem like it, these masks destroy people and destroy the person that's wearing them.
Señor Pavel from Plural, excuse me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I mean, Quien Tú Eres, brought to you by Plural, is really all about redefining the word professionalism for Latinx communities. So we do that by empowering people within the Latinx community to be their authentic selves. And we have a ton of candid conversations about the conflict that we often face with like being our authentic selves and professionalism, because in many ways in these corporate spaces, when we're told to be professional, we are told to not be ourselves, right? So what I'm really trying to show is who we really are when we stop code switching.
Woo!
Whenever, like when people used to ask me like pre-COVID, I used to say like, yeah, I had brunch, charcuterie board, whatever, blah, blah. And then I evolved it to like, oh, I went out dancing. And for me, that like, what the hell is dancing? You know what I mean? But like, that's really what I did. Like I went out dancing salsa, bachata, right? So I said dancing, then I evolved to like salsa, bachata. Then what I want to get to, which I think I'll never get to, is like, yo, the salsa band didn't even come. It was straight DJ. It was all Bad Bunny. And like, I was consensually like dry humping a bunch of strangers. That's what I want to tell them. Because that's what really happens. Sometimes the salsa band doesn't show up.
Can't happen.
And the Bad Bunny drops and people just twerking on you. That's what happens.
Mami, que tú quieres?
You know, something that we didn't discuss that I want to get into real quick is, where's everybody from? So I'm Afro-Colombiana from Bogota. Hey, hey. And I moved here when I was 9. So I'm a 1.5 generation immigrant. You know, I've lived kind of all over the states, Houston, Nebraska, San Francisco, New York, and next Miami, which is really exciting. But yeah, I want to know where everybody else is from and how you identify.
I'll start. Rocio Mendez. I am born and raised first generation Dominican from Hell's Kitchen, New York City. I identify as Afro-Latinx and blackity black.
Yes, girl. Love it. Love to hear it. How about you, Mercedes?
Well, I was born in Santo Domingo, but I was raised in Brooklyn, New York. Hipster before it was hip.
Hey. Oh, ooh, okay. All right. I see that branding. That's dope. All right. How about you, Odalis? Tell us, you know, where you're from and how you identify.
I was born in San Diego, in Southeast San Diego, which is a big differentiator. And I soy hondureña through and through. My whole family is son de Honduras, and I am a first generation Honduran. And I lived in the Bay for like 6-7 years. So my heart is in the Bay. That's why it's called Hella Latina. But yeah, and I'm back in San Diego right now, just chilling until I figure out post-COVID move.
All right. Well, that's dope. San Diego is not a bad place. You have the sunshine, the ocean. That's amazing. All right. How about you, Moso? Tell us, where are you from and how you identify?
So I was born and raised in the best city in the world, New York City, in the best borough in the world, Brooklyn, New York. And I identify as a forever growing, forever evolving Afro-Dominicano. That's what I identify as.
Oh, okay. All right. And then last but not least, Mr. Pavel.
You know what? I'm gonna keep it civil today, just because we're all friends. I'm not gonna go into the borough battle, but
No. Please go into the borough battle. This is what friendships, why friendships exist, for borough battles, if not for what else?
it's a little early. Maybe I'll save that for like the 15-minute mark, a little 30-minute mark.
I'm gonna come back to you about this.
Yeah, but I'm Afro-Latino, specifically within the Dominican culture, but I was born in New York City. I'm born in the Bronx. My mom just happened to be in the Bronx, but I grew up on the Upper West Side in Manhattan.
Do you really have a borough battle then? Because you are definitely, you said Upper East Side or Upper West?
Manhattan is the borough. I mean, that's where everything happens. Let's be real. But all right.
All right. And we have with us Chompita Chronicles, Jovi. Thank you so much for joining us. So I would love if you could tell us a little bit about Chompita Chronicles and also where you're from and what you identify as.
Hi guys, hello everybody, good evening. I am Panama. I'm from Panama, I'm Panameña. I was a former TV media corporate, and I decided to venture into podcasting and entrepreneurship. As you see, I started the Jovi D podcast, and then I started with the Chompita Chronicles, which is more about the experience of being an Afro-Latina and being seen in spaces that you have never been seen. I felt that corporate, I was like making be the token of diversity, I guess. But I felt different. I didn't have the information or the words for it, but that's how it all started.
¿Y cómo dijo? ¿Y cómo fue? Chompita Chronicles, say yes, I'm here. Hello.
Otras personas, porque a mí me ha costado mucho, o sea, en el sentido de que tú sí, por ejemplo, puedes encontrar en el trabajo personas que estén menos
profundo, como veía las cosas. Así que y esto es muy importante que sepa la gente, yo soy una persona muy leal y cuando me apegué mucho a la gente.
Una experiencia muy, muy diferente para mí.
Claro, y qué bueno por ti, porque a veces te acostumbras y te quedas también, como dice, cómoda detrás de cámaras, pero también darle el frente y te da versatilidad a tu trabajo y también te da esa oportunidad de entender cómo tus presentadores, tus actores, la gente que está enfrente de la cámara pueden hacer. Obviamente te da más experiencia como productora.
Exactamente, porque como te decía, yo nomás sabía que yo quería...
En Estados Unidos
hay todo
ese empuje para que los niños no se avergüencen de su pasado.
De su cultura, de su herencia, claro.
Así que cuando llegué a Puerto Rico, mi tío me mira para arriba y dice... ¿Y tú hablas español?
Encuentro como, ¿me entiendes? Porque es un anglicismo, ¿me entiendes? Afro-latino es un anglicismo.
Sí, porque yo aprendí que honestamente eso por lo menos en Panamá, de donde yo estoy siguiendo
episodios, por tocando ese botoncito que está a la entrada de este podcast que dicen apoyen el podcast o support this podcast. Ahí me vas a ayudar para que yo siga creando contenido para ti, contigo y para el resto de la gente fabulosa como tú. So say yes, I'm here.
can I just say, as an Afro-Latina, this is beautiful because we have mostly Afro-Latinos on the call. This is usually not the face of Latinidad. Thank you, Odalis, for holding it down for our non-Black Latinx. But I think it really talks about how Latinx is not a monolith. There's no one face, even in Afro-Latinidad, there's so many faces. And I know that, especially this past year, with everything that happened with Black Lives Matter and George Floyd, Blackness in the Latinx community really was highlighted. So it's beautiful to see that we have such diversity on this podcast today. So I want to just snap to that. And now I kind of want to move on and talk about the podcast itself, how the sausage is made. So for Pavel, I'm going to start with you instead of leaving you to the end. How has your podcast helped you embrace your identity? Because I know we talked about this before, and so I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it's always been relatively easy to embrace my identity growing up, from like middle school to high school, because I was always surrounded by Dominicans. I was always surrounded by Hispanic people, Latinos, Latinas. So it was easy, right? But when I started going into these corporate spaces or predominantly white spaces, like college, where it was a predominantly white school at Northeastern University, and then specifically in corporate America, where all I wanted to do was fit in, right? And then in that essence, in trying to fit in, I really felt like I was losing myself. I started, instead of telling people what I did on the weekends, which was like go out, dance, bachata, salsa, smoke hookah, I didn't see anyone else doing that around me. You know what I mean? Because I thought that was unprofessional, right? So instead of doing that, I would tell people, oh my God, yeah, I had this amazing brunch. Oh, they had this charcuterie board layout and it was beautiful. And like, I was a full-time employee, but I was also a full-time actor. Like I would just lie and create a whole nother persona. So it was really difficult for me to embrace my identity. So, I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm comfortable being that person, but every single recording that I do, and I talk to a bunch of jefes and jefas that are fucking doing amazing, dope work, but also not letting go of their identity and being proud and bringing that to the forefront. Like that shit is inspiring, and it's not something that I saw when I was coming into that corporate space. So I'm just trying to create more of that representation.
No, I love that. You ain't gotta lie to kick it. Like, I think that's amazing, and you uplifting everybody. I know that when I was in corporate, it was really hard for me to be myself, and actually got told a lot of the time that being myself was actually the wrong thing. Got fired a few times. So definitely appreciate that. How about you, Rocio? Because we talked about this a little bit when we met, and kind of you coming into your Blackness, your Afro-Latina identity.
Yeah. So this podcast has helped me embrace my identity in a lot of ways. One, just speaking to other Dominicans, Afro-Dominicans, and hearing the commonalities and the relatability with my life and my upbringing and theirs. That has helped me find a connectedness to being Afro-Dominican. Also, we had this insane episode with a Dominican historian. His name is Anthony Stevens Acevedo, and he just went crazy and broke down how Hispaniola and today Dominican Republic was the first Caribbean Americas to have African ancestry on the basically, in the Americas, excuse me. So it just suddenly like clicked, like, oh, we have this history that I never knew about, to be able to even embrace my Blackness and to embrace my African heritage. So kind of just being a student as well on the podcast has really helped me embrace and appreciate and love my identity.
Oh, I love that. That gave me chills. And, it's so important to know where we come from, and accept the fact that we do have all of this beautiful ancestry from all of these different places, but especially from, Africa. And that's such a hard thing. And so I love that the podcast is really exploring that. And lastly, Odalis, how about you? How has it helped you embrace your identity?
In so many ways, because growing up Hondureña in Southeast San Diego, if you know anything about California, specifically San Diego, LA areas, it's really Mexican heavy. There's a lot of beautiful Mexican culture around. I mean, like, you can just drive down the street and you'll see like taco shops left and right. And, you know, I don't complain about it. It's bomb. But at the same time, I never really saw Honduran representation or Central American representation. I only saw it at home. You know, we'd be home bailando punta y merengue, but I'd step out of those doors, go to school, and I was surrounded by, Honduras. But I was surrounded by a lot of Mexicans. And so I learned to fit in. And part of that was, you know, minimizing my own differences as a Latina. And instead of saying vos, I'd say tú, or, you know, instead of saying puchica, I'd be like, or whatever I don't even know what I said. But, you know, like, I just changed my words, changed to try to be like them. And then I realized it's so beautiful to be Hondureña, and I would educate my Mexican friends like, oh yeah, así se baila la punta, and I would like teach them, and they would be like hella into it. And so I started to realize like we are all so different as Latinos. We eat different foods, we dance different dances. And so my podcast and listening to other people's stories, whether they're Dominican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, I'm learning that everybody is so different. Latinidad is so different. The mosaic of it is so beautiful though. And I think learning that a lot of first generation folks deal with that identity crisis, I'm like, I don't feel alone. And I think that's helped me embrace that first generation specifically, because I'm like, everybody's going through it. So.
Ooh, I love that. And, you know, I think that as Latinos, we're often looked at, as I mentioned before, as a monolith. And that's absolutely not the case. And so it's beautiful to even explore that through all of the episodes that you have. I think you have like 40 now, which is insane.
Something like that.
But, you know, and speaking of that, if no one has heard of your podcast before, which episode do you recommend them starting with, Mercedes?
Wow, that's a hard one because they're all amazing. But if I had to choose, I would say colorism. Because as you guys know, colorism is real. Y'all see the whole Danny Lay issue going on. So we had an amazing episode on colorism where we had Claudio Cabrera, who really talks candidly about his experience as a dark-skinned Dominican. And, you know, it's real. Light skin, dark skin, one shade is darker than the other, one shade is lighter. So we go in on this episode, but we also talk about healing and changing the narrative, which I think is also important.
Ooh, I love that. And I'm glad that you brought up colorism, because that's a whole other thing, along with Blackness and just like understanding the like privilege and the privilege that's afforded to lighter skin in both, you know, the Latinx community and also in the Black community. And so that's beautiful. Please go listen to that, Rocio and Mercedes. How about you, Moso? What is the episode that you think that people could, you know, really relate to when they come listen to it for the first
time? So for me, I have so many episodes. For me, I would say it would be the fatherhood episode, the one, the fear of being a father. You know, that people, like, men don't speak about that. Men don't speak about the fears that we have, you know, when it comes to being a father. You know, we just hear a lot about, you know, we hear about us having to provide, you know, financially and stuff, which is a big fear, but we don't talk about the fears emotionally, how we're going to connect to our child, how we're going to be there for our kid and that kind of thing, you know. And to jump into that, because it was kind of like a 2-part episode. Then the following episode I would say for people to connect to also would be the one about daughters. You know what I'm saying? The reason I say that is because people forget the importance that fathers have, you know, not just on their son's life, but on their daughter's life, right? And it's something that is so needed, you know, that connects, not just someone who's a protector and all that, but someone that can actually emotionally connect with their daughter. You know what I mean? And me having a daughter, it was an episode that really touched me. You know, after I recorded it, I was like, damn, like this episode right here really hit me, you know, because it just shows how important it is to me and how much it means to me, you know, to be in my daughter's life. And not just that, but just give her, you know, give her those affirmations and make her feel good about herself. Even at 3 years old, you know, tell her she's beautiful, tell her she's smart, you know, tell her that she's strong, you know, like all these things, so that she grows up thinking that in her head. You know, she'll believe it herself. She don't have to hear from anybody else, but she'll grow up knowing I can do anything I want to do because I've been hearing it since I was a little kid, you know. But those are the episodes I think that people should really get in tune with. You know, the fatherhood episode and the daughter episode. those are the ones that really touch me the most. And I feel like if you listen to those episodes, they'll have an impact. Even if you aren't a father, they'll have an impact because either you had a father or you didn't have a father, or so it has some type of impact in your life.
No, I love that. I love that. I think it hits me right in the heart. I actually did not have a father. He left when I was 9. And so, I think that's a story of so many of us. And it's how do we change that narrative? How do we make that maybe not okay? Right. And start healing and doing a lot of intergenerational healing by beginning to heal ourselves, by beginning to really understand our vulnerabilities and our traumas and things like that, which I think is really beautiful. And Pavel, kind of taking that to the work situation, what episode do you think is the most impactful that you've had?
Yeah, before getting into that, definitely want to just chime in on what Mozo said, because you know how many women run away from me when I tell them I'm Dominican? Like, it's like, seriously, like there's so many memes that say like Dominican men are toxic and all of these things. So for Mozo to be like just changing the narrative on what Dominican men look like, right? And then adding another layer of that to like fatherhood, and is dope. And it's something that I didn't necessarily see as a child as well. So yeah, man, maybe, the next generation, maybe my son, when he tells somebody he's Dominican, they won't run away from him, man. So shout out to Mozo.
Yeah, love it. Also love this love on like from male to male. You don't see that very often, especially like in the Latinx community or the Black community, and it's beautiful that we can like hype each other up, especially from male to male. So, but you didn't answer my question. What episode?
I'm sorry, just spreading some love. So it's funny, like when I first started this, I was thinking about all of the conversations I had around code switching. I would have them openly with colleagues and stuff. I'm really like, I would talk a certain way with colleagues. Then when I talk about with people of color at work, I talk another way, right? We've had these conversations, but no one really talked openly about like microaggressions and like the racist things that happen at work and all of these things. Like a lot of the times these conversations, they're untold to HR, they're untold to managers. A lot of people sort of resort to sharing these stories anonymously on Glassdoor and the Medium and these type of outlets. And I was very intentional when starting this, that I wanted to put a face to this story and I want people to know who these people are. But I remember my friend came up to me. He was like, I want to be anonymous. I don't want to use my name. And I was like, whoa, no, bro, like that's corny. Like, I want to use your name. But I didn't think about like how scared people are to actually share some of these stories, the repercussions and the possibility of retaliation. Like someone speaking openly about a past manager and like the racist shit that they've done to them. Like, you could get fired. You could lose your job. They have so much control over like your financial and like your career success moving forward. So that one was eye-opening to me. The fact that he requested to remain anonymous, and I honored that, right? But it was just really interesting around that. And it just provided a different level of perspective, and also like the lack of safety around just like being open, because diversity and inclusion are such buzzwords and they want us to be ourselves. But at the same time, when we are ourselves, we get hit with all these words and descriptions and that are negative. So that one was really eye-opening and powerful. And it's something that I am being more conscious of moving forward if someone doesn't want to share their identity, because these stories deserve to be heard no matter what.
No, I love that. And protecting privacy is so important. And sharing stories can be so nerve-wracking and so scary, because for a lot of people, a lot of our voices have been silenced. And so getting out there, getting on a mic and doing something so public can feel so scary. But I know that all of you are looking for guests. So if you want to be a guest on their podcast, please follow them. We're going to have, I believe, like all of their IGs like on the screen when they're speaking or at the end as well. So if you want to be a guest, shoot your shot. You don't know, right? You might be willing, to tell your story, whether that's anonymous or not. But I think it's really, really important, like everyone has said, to keep on telling these stories. So with all of the podcasting episodes that you've done, Jovi, what are the similarities that you've seen with the Latinx culture?
Well, actually, one of the shows that really caught my attention was the one that I did with Dr. William Garcia Medina. He's part of the Afro Latino IG page, and his story, it was like so enlightenment of just when he was brought up, and just, between his mother and his father, and challenges, and basically he's now well known as, one of those authority figures in Afro-Latino education, and everything that he went through, all the obstacles, and understanding the whole colorism and different cultures between being American race and then being in Puerto Rico. It really struck me so deep. So I was so glad that I had that opportunity with him in sharing that piece. And it just kind of like, it really, repeated again and again that our stories, when I have a question in particular in my podcast, is ¿cómo te criaste? Meaning that everybody shares somewhere similarities of the narrative of how we were brought up, may that be we were brought up within the United States or in Latin America.
No, yeah, I love it. And I know I'm saying like I love it a million times, and because I so love it, and I see the comments and everybody's loving the conversation. And so, I think it's really important that we realize all of the similarities and all of the differences, and how both of those can really bring us together. And so, Mercedes, have you noticed any similarities, across all of the podcasting episodes that you've done?
Yes, I definitely have. One of the things that has stood out is the feeling of kind of being in both worlds. You feel like you don't really fully fit in the Americanized world, but you kind of feel disconnected from your own culture sometimes. Mm-hmm. So Rocio is first generation, and I was born in DR. And so we talk about those experiences from those perspectives. So yeah, that's what I would say.
No, I love that. Yeah. I think that the immigrant experience is not a monolith, just like Latinx is not a monolith, and I think every single experience deserves to be talked about. So I love that there's an exploration going on, and I think that's a theme with all of the podcasting, whether that's through toxic masculinity, or through work, or through identity. And I think it's beautiful that we have all of these spaces where people can really kind of get in there and hash everything out. How about you, Odalis? Like, have you seen any similarities like across everything?
That we're all just trying to figure it out. We're all just trying to figure out our place in the world. I think that Black and brown people from marginalized communities, I grew up in like a low income area in San Diego, which a lot of people don't know about. But I grew up and seeing that was going to be my future, and they relying on me. Everybody in my family was relying on me as a first generation, like nació aquí, to go out there and to make a different name, right? To like representar. But I didn't know how to do that because I didn't really know my identity. And I'm realizing with every single episode is that everybody's trying to do that. But Black and brown people, marginalized communities, Latinos, we're just trying to figure out spaces where we can feel heard and seen. And vulnerability isn't something that we talk about. I mean, at least in my family, that was not something that was like, yeah, let's talk about what's going on in the house. And like, no, la ropa sucia se lava en casa. You don't talk about it with other people. You don't talk about your mess. You like keep it at home. Y si no, if you're going through it, vaya a la iglesia. Like that was like my home environment. And so creating spaces where like people can just feel heard and seen, and their story is validated, where they can just like talk about it in an open space. I think that's what I've been seeing in my podcast, is that everybody just wants to be heard, just wants to be seen, just wants to be acknowledged. And they just all want to make a difference. Like every single Latino, whether you're working at a 9-to-5 or you are an entrepreneur or you are just like trying to figure it out, everybody's making moves to try to make this world a better place for us, for our communities. So that's what I've been saying.
Snaps to that. Yeah. Trying to figure it out. And a point that you touched on that we don't talk about is the socioeconomic part of it, right? It is really difficult to not only have identity, right? You're not from here, ni de aquí ni allá, but you're also now not even from the same income bracket, and that can also do a lot. And I know I have gone through that myself. I know that a lot of people go through that, and it's a really difficult journey. And so if anybody's going through anything like that, just kind of trying to figure out what the next move is, listen to all of these amazing podcast episodes, because there's so many inspiring stories. There's so many like gems in there, and there might be someone who you relate to that you might not even know. And most people who do podcasts, like, they're just regular people, so you can reach out to them on Instagram or LinkedIn, whatever it is, and talk about it. Because if they were vulnerable enough to talk about it in a podcast, in a public forum, they're probably going to want to talk about it in private, and would probably have like 30 minutes to chat about it, 15 minutes, whatever it is. So definitely go listen to all of these gems and get yourself some tea, listen, and then figure out how to connect with such amazing people that are doing such amazing work. And so with that, brings me to the last question that I have and for today's panel, and then we're going to do a really fun activity, which is really cool. So what is a story that was the most impactful for you? And that can mean anything, but that really got you. That was like, oh man, I did not expect that. And we'll start with you, Rocio.
Yeah, so on our podcast, Rocio Mercedes podcast, one of the most impactful episodes we had was an episode with a hairstylist, actually named Yesenia Reyes. I just grew up with a lot of trauma around hair, growing up in, a salon and getting derezado and, my hair burning and all this trauma around like what my hair is and the relationship with my hair. And speaking with her was so impactful because of the way she described how she empowers women, all women of color, even men of color, embracing their hair, embracing that the natural hair that just comes out of your head is beautiful, how to develop a healthy relationship, how to represent and make sure that you're walking into any room without needing to feel like you need to change or alter your appearance. And that was really impactful for me because I went many years of just trying to alter and change my hair and appearance. And I'm realizing that we just simply don't need to.
Yes. Say more or say less. Say more. No, actually say more. But no, I think that is extremely powerful. I have myself have had an experience in corporate America where I had a meeting about my hair. I talk about it in the Quien Tú Eres podcast. And I did not even have any, idea how to react in that situation. And so, having that context and understanding that people go through all of this, that is so, so powerful for everybody listening, for everybody that is going to listen to these episodes. So I love that. I will continue saying that because I'm just enjoying this conversation so much. How about you, Jovi? What is the most impactful story you've heard?
I definitely will say that is the first episode with Cecilia Mota. Definitely take a listen to that one. She had so many gems, so much knowledge and wisdom about the whole experience and of defining Afro-Latinidad or Afro-Latinx. And she literally will break it down on understanding where we come from, what we are, and where we're going.
Jovi, how many episodes do you have on the podcast right now?
Oh, I have. I'm sorry. It was like I have like about 40 episodes, I think.
All right. So, if y'all are looking for something to do during quarantine, start with one, Miss Cecilia Mota, and then keep going with everyone. So how about you, Moso? What was the most impactful story that you heard?
For me, the most impactful episode was episode titled Mom and Dad. And it was a very impactful episode because I really touched and spoke about the relationship with my parents, right? And how you grow up, your parents are your mom and your dad are your heroes, right? And they get older, you start judging for everything they do and everything they say, right? And you get older, you become an adult, and you still hold that same feelings that you had as a teenager, right? And you end up having that like resentful feeling towards them, right? And you feel like misunderstood, like they don't understand you. So on the episode, I spoke about how I had to take the time to understand them. Did I take the time to understand them? Because I didn't. It wasn't until recent where I took the time to really understand where they came from, what they may have gone through, the traumas they may have gone through, how they were raised, how their mom and dad should them maybe. So it's a lot of layers that goes into it. And you know, I feel like I have a great relationship with my mom and dad now, you know, like compared to how I was a few years ago, just because I took the time to really understand them, you know, and understand where they were coming from. And when I recorded that episode, it was a very touching episode. A few times I had to stop because I was getting very emotional. So because I was just taking me back when I was a kid, you know, and yeah. But for me, that was the most impactful episode.
Man, so when you watch Mozo's podcast, you need to come with the tissues because you're about to cry. Like you are about to cry. But that's so real. I think about my mom, and she was, I think, 34 with 2 kids coming to this country. She didn't know anybody. Like, you know, literally got on a plane and then decided to stay. We were supposed to stay a month, and then we ended up staying 20 something years, right? And I think about that and I'm like, how did you do that? I'm 30 and I don't even know how to make dinner sometimes. Like, how is that possible? So I think it's really beautiful to really look at our parents and our families and really look at them as people and really look at the beauty that brings to them and how beautiful they are as broken people, right? We are all broken people and are work in progress. And so I don't think anybody is, you know, perfect or enlightened or anything like that, but it's just the beauty in, you know, maybe those parts that are really a little bit tough for us to understand, right? So with that, I'm going to go to, you know, one of my favorite parts, and it's reviewing and really, you know, giving people their flowers. I don't know if that translates correctly, but, you know, we're going to review each other's podcast and really help people understand why they're so powerful. So I'm going to start with you, Odalis, and I want you to review Jovi's podcast and, you know, what did you get from it?
Well, big shout out to my sister from Panama. First of all, we were talking about this, you know, when we had this like pre-show meeting. I will never know what it's like to be an Afro-Latina. Like, I don't know that experience. And listening to Jovi's podcast, I'm learning about these stories of people in our community who go through a very different experience. And I think that to me is the most valuable part and the most valuable lessons that I've gotten from every single episode. You know, talking about hair, talking about what you guys deal with, that's just so different that I will never experience. But it's seeking to understand and to appreciate and to love on everybody, the mosaic again of Latinidad. So to me, that's just the beautiful thing that you're doing, Jovi, is you are allowing these stories to live. You are archiving these beautiful stories of Afro-Latinos on your podcast, and you are amplifying them. And, you know, for your own community, for people like me that I just want to learn and hear more stories. But yeah, I think that's just a beautiful thing that you're doing for the community. It's powerful.
Awesome. Yes, love all this love. All right, Jovi, how about you review Rocio and Mercedes' podcast? Because y'all have kind of a similar tie. So I think it's really interesting to see what you've learned from theirs.
Oh my goodness. Rocio and Mercedes podcast is like, it's so rich and, you know, it has so much information. I think they broke it down really great. At first I was like, well, they're talking about Afro-Dominican experience. But once I started listening, especially that episode of colorism, the way that they broke it down, it was just like, wow, insightful. I love the interaction. Also, that opening that Rocio and Mercedes have shared together once they, you know, go into deep with the topic, it's just really, really cool. I really, and they have that music entrance, by the way. I like that too.
Okay, all right. It's a whole party with Rocio and Mercedes. The whole experience. Like, you know, you're gonna get up and dance. You're gonna get up and, you know, learn and learn all this history, and it's gonna be amazing. So how about you, Rocio and Mercedes? I guess like y'all can each do take turns and review Mozo's podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love Mozo's podcast. First of all, I'm thoroughly impressed with the authentic and truthful and vulnerability that Mozo has on his podcast. And it's true, it is a tearjerker because I've definitely got teary-eyed listening to him to a couple. He did one that really stood out to me about jealousy in relationships that my mind just like blew up in the sky. I was like, not just Latinx men, like all men need to be listening to this right now because it's so important to spread this kind of information. And I'm just thoroughly impressed that he's putting that out there, like full on, like basically naked out in the world, not giving a fuck about anything, just knowing it's important to do the work.
Hashtag Dominican men don't cheat.
I mean, some. Everybody at some point cheats. Like you can't use all of that. I think some don't.
Fake news.
All right. How about you, Mercedes? What do you think of Mozo's podcast?
Oh my gosh. Mozo is an inspiration. We are always inundated with images of Black and brown men not being family men, not being there in their communities. And Mozo has created a sacred space where men can go to and have these conversations. He is definitely inspiring, and to have and show, like Rocio said, vulnerability is huge. You know, us women, we always have our friends we can talk to. It's okay to share our emotions. And I think that men need more spaces like that. So I commend Mozo for creating a sacred space, because in order to have dialogue, the first thing you need is a sacred space. And go on his Instagram so you can get your daily dosage of his amazing, beautiful daughter giving you her good mornings.
Oh, that's adorable. I love that. I'm going to do both those things. And also what I hear is Mozo has a lot of men who've been opening up about vulnerability. You know, I'm going to be looking through, seeing if I can slide in some of the DMs to see, because there is like such a disconnect, I think, between women and men and this conversation around vulnerability and like really bringing awareness to oneself. And so I think it's beautiful that you're doing. Okay, Jasenia. I love it. She claimed him. I loved it. I love it. I was saying Mozo's guests, to be clear.
You got a good one, girl.
I'm just saying, to be clear. So how about you, Mozo? What do you think about Pabel's podcast? It's such a different kind of, not tearjerker, but still kind of tugs at the heartstrings.
Before I get into Pabel, I just want to thank Rocio and Mercedes for that, for real. It really touched my heart. And thank you. I really do appreciate that, bro. But now getting into my boy Pabel, man. Let me tell you something about Pabel. Pabel inspired me to do what I do. Believe Pabel is the reason why I'm podcasting. You know what I'm saying? Pabel, I met Pabel on Instagram. Just a little quick story. Pabel I met Pabel on Instagram. We did a few IG lives, but he gave me the confidence really to get out there and do these kind of things. You know, we text each other and all that. So much love to Pabel for that, of course, always. And that's a dope t-shirt. Dope sweater. I need that. But moving on to the podcast. For me, Pabel's podcast, the reason why it's so dope is because it's real life. Like, we all go to work, right? We all go to work, and at one point or another, we've had to put on a mask or put on a costume and be somebody else, right? And the reason why is because most of us, that's how we were raised. We weren't supposed to act like our genuine selves, right? To get a job or to fit in. We have to be a certain way to get it. That's how we were raised to be. That's how I was raised to be. You know what I'm saying? So that's why his podcast is so important, and it shows different people from different jobs. It's not just all the same, same thing. So that's really dope. For me, it's funny that I didn't mention this episode, but I wrote it down right here. My favorite episode was Guerrero Anónimo, and the reason why is because it shows that how real it is. You know what I'm saying? It shows how real it is that people, to the point where people have to hide who they are because of what's going on in their workplaces. You know what I'm saying? People are scared for their lives. They're scared for their careers. So, what Pabel is doing with this podcast and with his clothing, with Mural, it's something that has a purpose. It's for the culture, definitely. And like I said, for me, Pabel, you a hero. You inspiring, man. You inspired me. So just keep doing what you're doing, man. For real.
Woo-hoo.
Wow. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. I'll hit your Cash App later, man.
Stop that.
You're speechless, Pavel.
It doesn't happen often, so.
To be called an inspiration.
is dope. It's beautiful, and you know, it's dope. And to be honest, I mean, let's be real, like we all inspire each other. Like everyone on this episode, you know what I mean? Like we've all done it in some sort of fashion. So yeah, I mean, y'all all inspiring me too. Is just dope. I just want to hug all of y'all.
Oh,
with yeah.
Yeah, we could do a virtual hug. But then on that note, and to kind of end and circle back, how about you tell us how Odali's podcast makes you feel?
Yeah. Oof.
You better make me cry.
I mean, Dominican men typically do, so we'll do that. Hashtag that
change the narrative, Kevin. Come on.
I know. Jokes. We could joke. No, but shameless plug. I was on Odalis's podcast. That was a dope episode as well. Just saying. Anyway, no, I mean, it's funny because there's so many different podcasts out there, and I think a lot of podcasts really strive to go for like influencers, or like they have to have a certain follower count, or they have to have a certain, you know, career journey and all these things. Like, I mean, Odalis has like amazing guests, and like me going on there, when she asked me, I was like, you want me to go on there? Like, what? And I think a lot of people have those sort of feelings when going on a podcast, but she made me realize that we all have a story to tell. You know, no matter how small we think we are, or how like little we've accomplished, like every one of us has a story to tell. And that story is going to resonate with someone else. Someone else is going to see that and be like, that's me. And now I want to share my story because of that. So I think she does this amazing job of extracting these like personal stories from people that aren't necessarily accustomed to sharing them. And really shines light on how beautiful our stories really are for someone like me that didn't think they had a story at all. And something else that I think she does a really good job of is that she's really intentional around her guests. And when I say that is that everyone talks about diversity and all these things, but she really does that. You know what I mean? Not only from a culture standpoint, nationality, but from like different professions, and make sure that her guests are really like exploring different topics as well. So she, in like, long story short, she's really creating representation for so many people. And I really appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you. Close to making me cry. Close.
Did you cry?
Yes. Oh, I said close.
Like a little bit here.
Cool.
We all shed a couple of tears today. And, you know, kind of moving in, because we're going to have a little Q&A starting here in about 3 minutes or so. I really want to ask each one of y'all, what is one word that you want to leave people with that you think your podcast is like really impacting? Like, what's one word of impact? And then also, how can everyone find you? Not everybody at once.
I can start. Yeah, I'll say the one word that I think people should think about and strive for is authenticity. And it's a buzzword. People don't really know what it means, but really think about like who you are and just be that person. Like, fuck what people think. You know what I mean? As far as where people can find me, they can find me at Plural, Instagram, right there. And yeah, look forward to keeping up and chatting with you all.
Ooh. All right. How about you, Odalis?
I would say it's vulnerability. You know, coming on there and showing, or on my platform, it's really about showing up as your full self and talking about your story in the most authentic way possible. And so, you know, where you can find me too, you can find me on IG. I'm always active at ojasmine with 4 A's. I'm on everywhere though, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm active on all of it. But vulnerability, I think vulnerability is key to everything. So that one's mine.
Love it. I love the 4 A's, the AA plus life. How about you, Jovi? What is one word that you want your podcast to really impact people with?
Well, definitely when you listen to Chombita Chronicles, as you say, it's personal stories. We all have a story. So I want to really say kindness. Kindness.
All right. And where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on IG. I'm like everywhere. But
all right. What's your handle in case people want to find you today, right now in this moment?
Okay, they can find me at Chombita_Chronicles and Instagram. That's where you can find me.
Yes, love it. Okay, how about you, Rocio? And then we'll go with Mercedes.
My word is acceptance. Just acceptance, accepting who we are, our true, authentic selves. You can find us at Rocio and Mercedes on IG. We're Rocio and Mercedes at gmail.com if you want to holler at us via email, and R&M podcast on Twitter.
Ooh, love it. And Mercedes, I'm so sorry, I've been saying Mercedes this whole time.
Oh, it's Mercedes too. Yeah, of course. I would say the word for me is community. It's very important to find your tribe. So come on over to Rocio and Mercedes.
Yes, love it. And this is literally what it's like to the community. Like this, what we're doing right now, the conversation we're having, all the love, it's all real. Actually, it's not. We scripted it right before. We were like, at 7:50, we're all gonna like hug and all of this stuff. Not but real. It's all real. So if you're looking for people to like really find this love, this joy, like follow every single one of us. And last but not least, Mozo, what is one word that you want to impact with, and where can people find you?
I was gonna say acceptance, but I'll switch it up. I'm gonna go with express, and by that I mean, my podcast is about expressing yourself, about me expressing myself, and suppressing your emotions and doing it in a healthy way. So I guess I got two words: acceptance and express. And you can find your boy Mozo at _the_real_Mozo. And you're about to say it right, because you know the vibes. You know the vibes.
Before we move on to Q&A, I wanted to also leave one word of impact for everybody, and my word is joy. And I think joy is so important because life is going to throw you whatever it's going to throw you. And if you're able to tap into small bits of joy with everything that you do and everything that you deal with, I think that's so, so important. So my joy today was coming off so much because I'm surrounded by love. I'm surrounded by all these amazing people, but that's not always the case. So, every time, maybe when you're not feeling your best or when you're not surrounded in this, environment of love, definitely try to find that little thing that brings joy to you, because joy is always an option. And with that, we're going to go into Q&A. So do we have any questions? And we are going to stay a little bit past 8, I believe. So or 8 p.m. EST. So if you do have to jump off, that's totally fine. But if you can stay, we'll stay a little bit longer. So Marissa says, what has been your biggest aha moment since launching? And this is for Mercedes and Rocio.
You want to take a stab, Mercedes?
Sure. Thank you so much, Marissa, for your question. I would say there's so many aha moments. Most, I would say, is yet again the sense of community, meeting other amazing podcasters who are out in these podcast streets and the similarities that we all have together. So yeah, that's been a big aha moment, as well as in our episode, The History of Dominican Republic. We had a historian on, and oh my goodness, there were so many aha moments about the true history of Dominican Republic.
Love it. All right, let's see if there's any other questions that have come through. Let's see. All right. So Kritika says, how do you think the podcasting industry could do more to meet Latinx podcasters where they are? Have you ever been able to participate in podcasting programs with Google or others? And this can be for anybody.
This is a hard question to answer because they can do so much more. I don't even know how these big companies like Spotify or Univision, who I know are doing work to represent, Latinx podcasters, what they're actually doing, because I haven't really seen that news out there. I haven't been able to participate in any programs. I have talked to networks like Univision, but nothing has ever come about it. And I am honestly more interested in knowing about their process. Like, how are they themselves, these big networks trying to represent our communities, and where are they looking is my question. So I can't answer this question. It's really hard because I just don't even know what their process is right now. I think this is a really new space, and it's in a really crowded space. And I'm just curious how they're kind of where they're looking to get more of these Latinx podcasters up on like the forefront.
I can add some context to this as well. Like, I think one of the biggest challenges with podcasting, or just like audio in general, is discoverability. Like, it's really difficult to get discovered because there is no algorithm. Like, if you go on Spotify, iTunes, like, there's no algorithm on like suggestedness. You have to literally go and search for certain things. Whereas if you think about platforms like Instagram, like TikTok, like any of these platforms which are more feed based instead of like search based, there's literally an algorithm that is pushing content to you based on your interest and behaviors and all those things. So I think like a complete game changer would be one of these really large platforms that has a ton of data on interest and behaviors and what like I'm actually interested in, to then show like, hey, you'll love this podcast. I think this one is for you. Whereas right now, like, we have to go to places like this or clubhouses of the world and all these things to find out like who these people are. So I think besides an algorithm, these huge platforms have like a ton of talent, like writers and all of like videographers, like they can write about us and really raise awareness for that. So I think it's like twofold.
Love that. All right. Very good. And obviously I think just with anything or like anything, it's just time and effort and actual support, right? So if anybody works at any of these companies and can help support, help connect, please do. That is step one. Are your individual podcasts bilingual? Ooh, this is a good one. All right. I think Judy wanted to, yeah.
I would say that the Chombita Chronicles is definitely Spanglish, if you want to go with that term also, bilingual. And yes, they do. At least I would consider mine like that. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Maria.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I would say that we are working on it because we have a couple of guests who don't speak or have very, poor English. So we are working on it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's it. I think representations matters as long as you're working towards it. That's really all you can ask for. Anybody else bilingual or plan to be bilingual?
I need to make mine in Spanish because I want my abuelita to listen to it and she can't. So it's really unfortunate. It's something I need to work on too.
Yeah. And I want to have my mom on, and she doesn't speak English, so I'm excited about having her on there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. These all are great ideas, and this is awesome that we can, embrace that side of the culture as well. All right, so we're coming up on 1 minute. I don't know if there's any other questions. Let's see if they pop in, but please, we are so eager to answer them. We are so eager. Rocio Xavier says, "What does your shirt say?"
I love mi pajón. Yo llamo mi pajón, my hair, my crazy kinky fun hair. That's what it says.
Not crazy, beautiful, beautiful.
I have a question for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for someone out there who's watching us in these podcast streets and wants to start a podcast or tell their story?
Woo! All right.
I would say just start. Like, those doubts that are in your head, doubt them. Like, doubt your doubts and just start.
Doubt your doubts. Quotable. All right. How about you, Moso?
My advice would be find something that you really believe in, find something that you really love, and put it all together. And just say what you want to say, without fear of anything. I think a lot of times, like Papa said, the doubts and the fears stop us from wanting to speak or wanting us to do things that we want to do. So it's important that we just put that to the back. That you really want to do something, find something you really love, and you really want to talk about something you're passionate about, and just go for it. You know what I'm saying? Listen, if one person listens, well, that's right there is a big deal. And honestly, even if nobody listens, there's a lot of times when I listen to my podcast and I listen to it, and it helps me, like, just it's helped me so much. It's almost like therapy for myself. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels like when I listen to my episode. So, just find something you love, find a purpose, and go for it.
Anybody else want to chime in? All right. So if not, this is not specific for podcasting, sort of. If you're scared to start, go in as a guest and understand kind of what that feels like, what the rhythm is. Can you do this forever? Because I'm a career coach by trade, or that's, I guess, like my job and what my company is. But a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do that, and then they don't actually know what that entails. And so it's really important that you actually get on a podcast, you start networking with podcasters and really understand what does it take. So for me specifically, I want to do a podcast, maybe not now, but like in the future, because I know that putting out content on a regularly scheduled basis is not something that I want to do right now. And not to discourage anybody, but like the reality of it is I don't have that discipline in my work schedule right now. I like to be a little bit more flexible. And so especially for the people that follow it, right? You have to be available. You have to be accountable. So really think about and pick any of our brains. Sorry to use that phrase. I know it's like tired, but like, slide in the DMs, say, hey, what does it really take to run a podcast? And if you're about it, you're about it. If you're not, then go find something else. And that's the beauty of, spaces like this, is just the connection piece and being able to understand that you can reach out to somebody who's done it before actually going into it.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because like, I think for me, I've been trained for so long to like think independently. Like, I don't have any problem asking my boy, like, yo, where'd you get that shirt? But when it comes to business, I can't ask Mozo like where he got his mic, because I don't want to feel like I don't know where to get a mic. You know what I mean? And they're just like simple things like that where like we're so connected these days. You could literally slide in any of our DMs and be like, where'd you get that mic? How did you start? What podcasting programs do you use? How often do you upload? Like, yo, is this a lot of work? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many easy questions that you could just answer by just like asking. But it's not always as easy to ask those questions and ask for help.
So I think in that vein, who here wants to help people on the call? Right? Okay, so all of us. And that's the first step, right? Understanding that people want to receive your messages and people want to help, because I don't know about y'all, but I know that I didn't have that much help like starting and actually having somebody to like, be like my beacon and my like guiding light. So
I just wanted to say something real quick, because Mercedes touched on community and Pabe, what he just said. I think it's important when I think this is an example right here of us building community, right? And a lot of times we're looking for like maybe like a big shot, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But I think it's important that we know that we could build something ourselves. We come together and we could build community. We could build whatever it is that we want to do. We could do it all together, because I think that's something that's changing a lot. Like there was a time when there was a lot of people that, there's still people like that are very standoffish. They, maybe they don't want to help anybody else or whatever. Maybe they just were raised that way, but I'm seeing a lot of change when it comes to that. When you can reach out to somebody and ask for advice or to do something with them, to collaborate, to work together, to unify, come together as one. I think that's so important. That's so key, that we can build our own communities. We could build our own mini Univision if we want. You know what I mean? We could do that. We don't need to wait for Univision to come to us. We could start building it right now. You know what I'm saying? And they take a little longer. We do it ourselves, and make it look how we want to look. Because Univision don't look like me. You know what I mean? So we could make it. We can make it the way we want it to look. We can represent the people, the real people, for real. So shout out to us for doing this for real.
All right, I love that message. Powerful. And I think the last question that we'll have for today, and then we'll close, and whoever wants to answer it. So, how much growth have y'all seen in yourselves since launching your first episode? Ooh, juicy.
so much growth. Like I'll answer this because I feel this so deeply, and I was like reflecting on this and journaling about it the other day. But shout out to journaling.
I'm your first one, so
first guest right here. Growth in myself, I've seen so much. It's just like you start to become a natural at it. When I first started podcasting, like just being in front of a mic, it's like, well, I have to be put together. And then I'd like talk myself out of it and be like, no, they want the real you. And with every single episode, every single story, I'm really just so into the person. I'm just like, yes, like, let's talk about this and like, let's just get deep, right? Like, let's have these vulnerable conversations. And so for me, I've seen growth in just the way I navigate the world now. Like, I want to know everybody's story. Like, I just like go into the grocery store and I'm like, I wonder what this like, cashier does like when they're not here, I just think of people's stories and like how many more people just want to be heard and seen. And like in everything that I do now, like wherever I go, I want people to feel that spirit of like, you can come to me, we can talk, we can, you have people here who are rooting for you no matter what you're doing, right? Like, I got you. I want to listen. I want to hear your story. So that's really the growth that I've seen in myself. I'm just confident in my own voice, and I just want to know more people's stories and how to amplify them wherever it is that they are.
Snaps. Yes.
Yeah, I want to say something. I want to say that I think Mercedes and I definitely have grown just in like our personal relationship and just like how we talk on the podcast. Like there's such a huge difference from our first episode to our episode now. Like we've developed this really cool in tune rhythm with each other. And I think it stretches out and reads into the guests that we have on and making them comfortable and vibe with us. I think that personally, just as a person and myself, it's helped me grow in so many levels because hearing all these other perspectives and experiences just has made me just feel so much less alone in the world, and so much it's given me like strength and empowerment to like listen to all these people. So from when we started in the summer till now, I feel like personally my meter went up like 10 points.
10 points, girl, 100.
100 points.
0 to 100 real quick. No, I love it. And so we have 2 minutes left, and I have one burning question that Mozo did not answer. What are the vibes?
Well, the vibes are very simple. The vibes are, these are the vibes. You listening, Kata?
Yeah, I'm listening. Everybody's listening.
Okay. All right. So the vibe is to be you, to be you, the realest you could be, and those are the vibes. I feel like so many people, like just including myself, I spent so much time in my life like being somebody else or covering up who I really am, as a person. So the vibes is who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like this is who I am. You know who I am. When I say the vibes, it's coming from me, from a genuine, from me, Mozo, the realest Mozo out there, because I'm the only Mozo out there. So the vibes, and that's it.
Love it. Love it. We'll end with that. But thank you, everybody. I'm so excited, so thankful that we were able to have this conversation. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thanks, everybody. Love everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know the vibes.
You know the vibes.